Hello, people. Andrew here, talking about comics from a reader, collector, speculator, investor point of view, in order of importance to myself. Today I'm talking about Firestorm, the second part of that Firestorm video. So Firestorm came to an end during the DC implosion in the late 70s. Gerry Conway liked the character enough, he created the character, that he put him into the Justice League. And from the Justice League, he ended up getting an 8-page backup in the Flash. And you can see that it's mentioned up here. He doesn't get cover, but he does get an 8-page backup in the Flash, running from issue 289 to 304 from 1980 to December of 1981. And after his time in the Flash, he then graduated to his own book. Here, Firestorm #1. And this particular run of Firestorm ran for 100 issues, and I think it was 7 annuals. But Gerry Conway's part ends in issue number 53. So we're going to talk about that block of books. Most of it was written by Gerry Conway. There was a couple of fill-in issues by other writers. The first 20 or so issues were illustrated by Pat Broderick, and the remainder in Gerry Conway run by Raphael Kayanin. And again, there were some fill-in artists here and there. I like Pat Broderick's stuff more than I like Kayanin's, but I thought both artists were fine as far as depicting this tale. So, I've talked a little bit about what the story is. It's in the last one about being a teenage superhero, a teenager who gets superpowers, and we follow his progression through learning about his powers, the responsibilities of being a hero, how it affects his personal life, also how it affects, in this case, the personal life of Professor Stein, because they are a fused being of Professor Martin Stein and Ronnie Raymond. Harkens back to a little bit of the early Spider-Man concept where you had a teenager that picked up some new powers and had to learn about these powers and the responsibilities and how to deal with everything. And again, this is a little bit because Gerry Conway did write Spider-Man and he missed writing Spider-Man, so he kind of followed into that sort of category with Firestorm. And it's also because there was so much history involved with a lot of the characters. In the Marvel universe, the characters were now 20 years old. They'd been from the 60s. And in the case of DC, many of the characters were 40 years old from the Golden Age. So that's a lot of history. Firestorm, starting off as he did in the late 70s as part of the explosion, doesn't have that history, so you can build on it and have all these stories for the first time. This character experiences and deals with these villains and what have you for the first time. So we can go along with him on that journey. Is it worth the read? Well, there are some books that, even if you're not a fan of the superhero genre, perhaps the science fiction genre or what have you, you can read those books and they're an excellent read and they transcend the genre. That's not what I'm looking at here with Firestorm. There are books within the genre that you enjoy reading. Just say, I like reading a superhero tale. Tell me a tale that is going to take me away for 10 to 15 minutes while I read it. Every once in a while, after I finish reading, and I might go, and think about a couple of things. But for the most part, I'm just enjoying a good read. I disappear for 10 to 15 minutes before I come back, and I'm satisfied with that. And that's what you get with Firestorm. And so if that's enough, then yes, I recommend it for that read. It is fun. It is a little bit lighter. We haven't gotten into the dark, gritty stuff of the late 80s and early 90s. You can tell just by the colors of the book how bright the book is. So it does have a lighter tone to it. There are some serious issues in here. Characters do die in the situation, and they have illnesses and they have problems, and these are genuine problems. They make mistakes. They got to deal with various issues. So it's not entirely a light book. It does get you involved, which is another thing I like. But one of the other things that I do like about the book is that it's not cosmic. Despite the power level of Firestorm, most of the villains are not the type that are looking to take over the world. They have personal vendettas and personal reasons for being a villain. The first issue here features a character called Black Bison. That's the first appearance of Black Bison, and he's as Americans would say, a Native American that feels that he's been unjustly treated, or at least his people have, and he wants some sort of retribution for that. So he's got a different personal stake in his actions. To him, he's not the villain. And again, there's a few villains that are like that don't consider themselves the villain. They're just acting out in ways that they want to reach their goals, and to a large portion of society, they're villainous. So I like the fact that the villains are a little bit more grounded, and we don't go into that cosmic scale of things. As far as his Firestorm's powers, the big one is transmuting matter from one state to another. And sometimes it's goofy, which is part of the lightness of it. It reminds me a little bit of Green Lantern and his power ring. He comes up with these goofy things to take care of various things, like a giant electric fan to blow things away and whatever else. Visually, they are, they're fun, and that's part of the idea of a comic book. It's fun, but I mean, if we were talking practical and we're all serious every moment of the time, a lot of the items that are created by both, say, Green Lantern and Firestorm, they wouldn't be so specific, like a giant fan or whatever. They'd be more effective without the visual aid to it. Still, I like Firestorm. I like his powers. I like his dealing with various people. And as I say, every once in a while you go, because there's something to think about. Then you come back. So Firestorm became a member of the Arrowverse, which was somewhere in the 2000s. I'm not sure exactly where. But he was part of Arrow, the Flash, the Legends of Tomorrow, and a number of his books. There's a couple anyways that featured some characters that were in these universes, and those books went up in price. Same thing happened when the Suicide Squad film first came out. A couple of those books went up in price, but that time has passed. And a number of these books no longer, when they were hot, they were making $20 to $30 a book, and prior to that, they were all in the dollar bin. In fact, a lot of the Firestorm stuff is still in the dollar bin, and some of these books that did get some notice, maybe they're not back in the dollar bin, but they've certainly gone down in price, and maybe in a $5 bin. And we'll look at those and talk about those. So this is the first issue, as I said, first appearance of Black Bison, first issue of a 100-issue series. Not the first Firestorm, that was from the DC Explosion. Will you find this in a dollar bin? Maybe. More likely a $5 bin. Perhaps somebody's got it for $10, and people are going to put it on $20 if they want, but it's really not. It's like a $5 or $10 book. I wouldn't. None of these books that I'm going to show you that I would have graded as far as an investment is concerned. If you're interested in that sort of concept, I would possibly buy a sharp copy in raw and just hold on to it until the time when perhaps it looks like a 9.8 or a 9.6, would command more, and then get it graded. But I don't see any benefit in getting it graded early right now. So, first issue, good book. This is issue number 6. It's not so much the issue to deal with Firestorm that this one is on the list, but it's because there was a 15-page insert in here for Masters of the Universe. This would be the second appearance of Masters of the Universe. The first one, I think it was in DC Comics Presents, possibly issue 47. Don't quote me on that because I'm not sure. But this was the 15-page insert for Masters of the Universe. The thing is, there were 11 books during this month that had a 15-page insert. And the prices of buying one of these books varies. Batman is the most expensive of the bunch, but there are other ones. Firestorm, I think Atom is another one. But 11 books in total that had this 15-page insert. Is that worth something. You might find this still in a dollar bin, but you might find it more so in the $5 bin as being the second appearance. I know that there are some people who actually remove the insert and try to sell that on its own as the second appearance of the Masters of the Universe, and some people are buying it because they don't know. But I'm telling you that there were 11 books that featured this 15-page insert being the second appearance of Masters of the Universe, and depending on which one you buy, it'll cost a different amount. The Firestorm one is on the lower end, and it is possible that you would find this one overlooked in a dollar bin, but more likely you'll find it in a $5 bin. Maybe more. This is the one that I would call the sleeper of the bunch, issue number 7, featuring a character named Plastique. Chances are this one too is still in a dollar bin. I don't think it'll make it to the $5 bin yet. The character has shown up in a number of other books, which is why I mention her. This is her first appearance, and not being part of that Arrowverse at all, it just sort of glossed over, but has made more of an impact into the DC universe, at least the comic version so far. Possibly, worth something later on, picking up like some of these other books that I'm going to mention. But right now, there's no buzz about this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if you found this in a dollar bin. But again, some of the earlier stuff from the early part of the 80s, it's moving out of the dollar bins just because of age alone. You're talking about books that are close to 40 years old now, and sometimes more. So it's got that age aspect applied to it as well. So dollar bin, maybe moving into the $5 bin, but I think this is a sleeper. You could still find it at a very low cost. First appearance of Plastique. Another character that's sort of under the wire is Firehawk. This is issue number 17? Yeah, it is. It is issue number 17. Pat Broderick artwork too, which is really great. First appearance of Firehawk. Again, a character that's been around a little bit, spent most of the time in Firestorm, but she is a hero. She continues on throughout the DC universe. She becomes a senator, so Lorraine Riley is a senator. She's got an interesting history, and this is her first appearance. So again, and it's not going to cost you a lot. You may still find this one in a dollar bin. Here's one that was really bolstered by the Arrowverse, because this is the first appearance of Felicity Smoke. And I haven't seen any of the Arrowverse or the Flash or Legends of Tomorrow, just bits and pieces, and I know though that the characters are very different. Much like the Agatha Harkness in the Marvel universe, the cinematic universe is very different than the Agatha Harkness in the comic universe. Same thing here. But this is the first appearance of Felicity Smoke, and she was a very popular character on Arrow and part of the Arrowverse. So her first appearance rose in value. When she became that popular, this book was now $20 to $30. It still has a little bit more value than the dollar bins, or possibly even the $5 books. But with the no longer people not paying attention to the Arrowverse right now, and not looking back on it fondly with, reminiscing about it or anything like that, the value of this book and the demand for the book has gone down an awful lot. So you should be able to find, if you're interested, to find a copy at $10 or less. Yeah, I mean, some people will still try and sell it at the same price as it was when it was hot, but it's not a hot book anymore. First, Felicity Smoke. This one, again, has another one of those inserts, and this is the first appearance of the Blue Devil. So we're not interested necessarily in the Firestorm book, although, as I say, good read. But it does have the first appearance of the Blue Devil, a character, again, that hasn't done a lot in the DC universe, but this is his first appearance, so it might be worth it to pick that one up. Again, all these books I'm looking at, we're talking a dollar. Either you're lucky and you find it in the dollar bin, or you might just see it in a $5 bin. And today, $5 is not a crazy amount of money. Um, $5 now is like a dollar from the 80s. So when the first Suicide Squad film came out, there was a lot of buzz about that. And there was a character named Slipknot, and this is Slipknot's first appearance. This is, what, issue number 28. Slipknot promptly, spoiler here, died in the first little bit of Suicide Squad, and the character wasn't all that interesting. But, a lot of buzz about characters when they were first introduced onto screen, and there was a lot more buzz when that was happening, 10 years ago or so for these films. The whole buzz from film and adaptations of comic characters to film, that's died down considerably. I don't know that even now, if they did another Suicide Squad and for the first time Slipknot showed up, that this would rise in the same kind of value. So it did join the other $10 to $20 squad for that short period of time. So there was this chunk of Firestorm books that did go up in value, but again, all of it's somewhat subsided and come down. Again, probably $5, $10, maybe $1. This is the one that I think still has some legs because it's the first appearance of the Weasel. And then in the latest Suicide Squad film, there was the Weasel, and people liked the Weasel character. And I think that has something to do with whether or not the book is going to be popular or not, if people like the character. So this is the first appearance of the Weasel. Again, it's probably still hanging out there around a $20 book, possibly $10, possibly $5. I don't think you'll find this one in a dollar bin, but if you do, consider yourself lucky and pick it up. Because it's the first appearance of the Weasel. What's that? Issue number 35. It was nice. Firestorm got himself an anniversary issue number 50. So they, made note of that. And so here we are with the 50th issue. And the last one here, issue 53, a character called Silvershade who hasn't done anything. This would be definitely, dollar bin material. But it's the last of Gerry Conway's run. And then we go and we take a different turn for Firestorm. So, overall, as I said, would I recommend it? With that stipulation that you just want a casual superhero story to read without, too much depth involved in it. And just, I want to relax for 10 to 15 minutes and have a good read and enjoy some good art. Yeah, it's good for that. As far as collections are concerned, there are some other characters that show up here. There's an issue with the Phantom Stranger. There's a fill-in issue illustrated by Gene Colan. So they're scattered throughout here. There are some personalities and some artists involved. So there are those, but it's primarily you're picking it up for the Firestorm collection. Speculation, I just went through all of the speculation books that I can think of from this particular chunk. I think, as I said, they were at a higher level at one point in time, and now they've come down. Will they go back up again? Hard to say. None of the characters were particularly big. I think Plastique and Weasel are pretty good to look at, and Firehawk hasn't done anything much yet, but there's a potential there. All of this stuff is pretty much dollar bin material, but age has made it jump into the $5, and then some of these special ones possibly even as high as $10. So if you find a bunch of these at $1 a piece and you're interested in just a casual fun read to take you away for 10 to 15 minutes, yeah, I would suggest it definitely. From the Gerry Conway run, from 1 to 53. As far as an investment, I don't think that I would consider any of these books an investment. If I was going to invest in any of these things, I would go back to the very first appearance of Firestorm and Firestorm number 1, which is only a $25 to $30 book right now. Buy yourself a really sharp grade, maybe cost you a little bit more, but that's where I would put my investment in. So anyways, thanks for listening. I enjoyed the Firestorm series. I'm currently picking up the stuff that was written during the New 52 and then the stuff that followed this to get an idea of what's happened there. But when I get back here to talking about Firestorm, I'll talk about what happened after Gerry Conway left. Until then, hey, be good to one another and be good to yourself.